So welcome to From Katrina to Corona, Poor People's Solutions versus Government Solutions to COVID-19 and the Virus of Poverty. A special Zoom series sponsored by Poor Poets Poor People's Revolutionary Radio, Poor People's Radio broadcast live Thursday 6 to 9 p.m. PST and Thursday 4 to 7 p.m. on PoorMagazine.org/radio or on the dial in Oakland at 96.1 FM. All of these Zoom broadcasts are available at PoorNewsNetwork channel on YouTube or PoorMagazine.org/TV. Yeah, I am the Black Crippled. Hey.
I am that poverty scholar, that houseless mama, that houseless daughter. I'm a poverty scholar. All those people you don't want to see, never want to be, look away from me. What you gonna do, arrest me? We're in your city. Yeah, I'm a poverty scholar, and welcome to PNN, not CNN, people. On this series, we focus on the systemic, racist, and classist, and ableist ways these white supremacist systems, like the ones we live under in this stolen land in the United Snakes of Amerikkklan, responds to an emergency, i.e. military, PoLice, lies, and placation, and how as poor and indigenous peoples have our own solutions, which we are already enacting and have already been for years of what we call self-determination.
Hey, what's up, yo? Muteado Silencio presente y me alegro. We didn't cross the border crossed us. Muteado presente y me alegro. Again, welcome, familia. This is the Poets, also Poor Magazine Familia Homefulness. And we always, again, acknowledging the people, the indigenous people, the First Nation people. So we're going to start with prayer and, we're going to pass it to my sister, Tiny.
So if people can take probably just a little bit of silence, close our eyes on these digital streets. First of all, honoring the First Nations folks of this stolen land, Ohlone Lishan peoples who are still here 527 years later. Ashe to Sister Katrina, Gold, and Janella, and Fui, and many others who actually are helping us steward this liberation project we call Homefulness. As well to all the Black, brown, poor, and indigenous people who die every day in these stolen streets because of the very things we're talking about tonight, and all of the work that all of us do to try to liberate and unhinge ourselves from these lies, lifting up all of those victims of PoLice terror, poverty, and the pandemic called colonization. And then all of the ancestors of the people who are on this call with us tonight, and all of you in your hearts. Ashe, ho, omateo. Thank you.
Into ground tonight's discussion, we begin with a small words of her story from the elder Malik Rahim from Common Ground in New Orleans, who struggled with racist brutality during Katrina.
A maroon is a runaway.
Okay.
All right. There was basically two types of maroons in Louisiana. Mm-hmm. There was a grand maroon and a petty maroon. Okay. A petty maroon was a maroon, a slave that ran away just to find a loved one, but had no intention on staying gone. Mm-hmm. And then it was a grand maroon. And a grand maroon was a slave that ran away and had no intentions on going back. All right, to living a life of a slave. Is one that that would say I would rather die in the bayou than to live a life of a slave. So, the with your Grand Maroons, it's the oldest African community in Louisiana.
To heal us all and ground us, that's why we begin always with our elders who are still fighting these Amerikkklan wars. Elder Malik Rahim is, one of the warriors who continues to fight in the occupied territory known as Louisiana to make sure that poor peoples and Black and brown peoples have their own self-determined solutions. And of course, Poor Magazine had the blessing of sitting with him, which you're watching. If you want to see more of his wisdom, again, go to PoorNewsNetwork on YouTube and look up Malik Rahim, Poverty Scholar. So again, we're, grounding tonight in this history is almost a healing before we walk into the violence that all of our guests tonight are struggling with and also resisting in real ways. And, I think that we need to just recognize that these systems are connected. And so that's why we have this broad connection tonight that we call PoLice terror to military terror. So, tonight we're blessed to have a powerful brother and, just warrior of the spirit, Brother Mali Watkins, who was, and most of you heard, was arrested for the inane crime of dancing while Black in what I affectionately call Klanameda, AKA Alameda, right here in the Bay Area. To Kayla Moore, who was PoLice murdered for having a mental health crisis as a trans Black sister living in Hippocrazy, Berkeley, occupied with Chin. To the story of cop watching in San Francisco that some of you might have heard about on Friday, AKA James Kraft, a Black disabled veteran of these military lives, who could have been PoLice murdered, but wasn't because the community stood guard. And we're blessed to have folks speaking on all of these very important issues and the ways, and also they're connected to that military industrial complex. And so we're also blessed to welcome in Griselda Martinez, who is a warrior sister and connect and part of the family of Enrique Roman Martinez, who some of you might have heard and more of you need to hear, which is why she's joining us tonight and will be joining us more, who was brutally dismembered while serving his country, with his heart and his love at Fort Bragg. So we're going to get the blessing of hearing all of these powerful family members, and we're also going to, continue to make these connections and figure out the ways that we are already resisting and that we can continue to lift up actual resistance.
Yes, and again, we want to take time, man, Griselda, Maria, the folks for taking the time and being here with us. And like my sister just said, we got powerful folks presenting and what's going on. And so we want to limit ourselves because of time. Again, we're working with the time that we have to 7 minutes each. Also, because we would like to open it for questions. Also, maybe you can help us plug in to how folks can get to know more or how to support in other ways. So we want to limit ourselves to about a 7-minute presentation, and I'll keep track of the time. So because I know sometimes we're passionate, and so yeah, just to be respectfully, so we could include everybody.
And so we're going to begin tonight with the sick, disgusting, and almost tragic comic story of our beautiful brother Mali Watkins, with a short video clip from the incident, again, in what I affectionately call Klanameda. And then we'll bring Mali in to talk about what's going on.
Let me go. Sir, let me go.
This is video of 44-year-old Mali Watkins, arrested by Alameda police just before 9 a.m. Saturday, May 23rd.
I do this every day. Let me go now.
Minutes before his arrest, Watkins says,
just was going through doing my normal workout regimen.
Sir, let me go.
According to the police report, Watkins was reported for dancing in the street.
At this point, you're detained, understand?
Sir.
Don't reach for anything.
My keys.
Great.
My car.
May I?
Greenhouse. No, for what?
Listen, I'm trying to be
what?
cool. You're dancing in the street, technically.
So what? I'm dancing in the street.
Yes. Hold on, woman. You're not free to go.
Neighbors who...
So, Molly, can we, it's our honor to bring you in to speak on this insanity and what you want to say about it and what the resistance is looking like for you.
Well, first and foremost, I want to, send whole soul healing out to everyone here on the panel and around the world, and our fallen warriors and our healing warriors that are here, which I'm electing to go that route. Ultimately, not to get too long-winded about it, it's a simple situation of the way that the mayor kind of positioned it. I guess it was what she said, that consensual contact was violated, because apparently, just to kind of flash forward, the chief of police stepped down. All 5 of the officers have been put on administrative leave, and they are actually leave for training in what she said is consensual contact, which was interesting that she put it in such a sexual way, especially being that I guess actually the way that I described it, it was kind of like, say, you see someone, that you may be interested in, or they may be interested in you. Hey, how you doing? It's like, okay, you stop, talk to each other. Oh, okay, I'm not interested. Okay, have a nice day, keep going. But the thing is beyond there, it's like, I'm not gonna take it to where I have in description of it, but, needless to say, you can use your imagination. I just kind of, I don't want to go here because I have been here before, but it was kind of like open air rape, honestly, in the middle of everybody. And it see, the thing is this, you have to watch, because personally, there's a separation that I have between my mental, my spirit, and so on and so forth. I'm autistic, full spectrum autistic, and on top of everything, but it displayed itself in a genius way. So I have to actually go back and think about it, because there's a disconnect between the emotion and anyway. So forgive me if I get a little, emotional about it, but I'm not really emotional about it, but it's just one of those things that just kind of absorb it, because honestly, that was the first video. That's the first report, the first time I've ever seen it. I haven't watched TV in over 20 years. I haven't been on the internet in over a year. And this is like, I haven't seen any of the reports. I sent it to everybody else. And Tiny, actually, I sent you a report on an interview that I did, but that's the way that I function, because it's not for me. It's for us, because it's something that is affecting all of us. And in honesty, not to get too long-winded about it, I will definitely say, and I hold my position, if this needed to happen to me for this to be happening, and I mean, it's been multitudes, again, conversations, it's been, I mean, honestly, I kind of laugh about it, but I've actually seen, really maybe racist white men older than myself that would have probably strangled my children himself at one time, actually standing in the middle of the street here in tears, full tears, like in pure in support and love of what it is, and because what's not right is not right, period. And in honesty, if it takes things like this to kick into that dissatisfaction so we can get the conversation going, so we can get this somewhere else, so be it. You know what I'm saying? And that's my position, because in honesty, I mean, again, I had to be informed of what happened with Mr. Floyd, which actually happened 2 days later, which I found out about because, again, I'm right here, but I'm underneath a rock on purpose. But the thing is I point out that man is 6'4", 270 some odd pounds, whatever, big guy, in other words. I'm 5'8", 150 pounds.
Mm.
What you saw there is you saw a fully activated human. My Kundalini was fully active, and I'm aware. Chakra centers, blah, blah, blah. All of these things that everybody talks about, this is what I've been doing, disciplining myself for the past 17 years to get to this point.
Mm.
You know? So, but my point is my mindset is always, what do I bring to the table in terms of healing? We know about the problems. We got to, now it's about solutions. And my solution in my arena just so happened to be and this. And being able to relay this over to the children, because as these things progress further, you know, you guys will see the kids in West Oakland, because after this was us and then I got up because of what I said. Mind you, it's a key. I want to touch on that. What I was saying, it's very key, because a thing that I know somebody here is into it, occult, conspiracy, blah, 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 da-da-da, private world, da-da-da, tassel swinging, or so on and so forth. Really quick, not to beat it up too much, what I'm saying there is very key. That's why I'm able to get up, dust my clothes off, and walk across the street.
No, you got 1 minute. You 1 minute to close up.
Okay, so with that said, I mean, we can touch on that, all of these things later, but my thing is, what do I have to offer and bring to this? You know, what am I bringing to this? Because riches and things like that, I mean, I've been in money. A divorce brought me here. And so, and the checks will be, I mean, Mr. Burris is my attorney, da-da-da-da. But that's, my thing is getting out here and doing what I'm doing. How do I bought back my time, they bought back my time, fine. So what am I going to do with it? I'm bringing forth perfect health, perfect wealth, perfect relationships. And, you know, you guys are tribe. This is tribe. Everybody, again, this is not me, this is us. You know what I'm saying? And I'm looking at Mr. Navarro, Weston. Is your hair like? Oh, okay. Yeah, because I'm looking.
I got a whole.
Thank you.
I got a whole. It's down to here.
Forgive
Thank you for
me.
that.
I mean,
thank you for that. Thank you for sharing.
Forgive me. Thank you, guys. I do appreciate you.
So much love, Weston. So much love, Molly.
Yes.
Yeah, Molly. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So are you? Let's see. Are you next, hon? Oh, okay. So again, yeah, it's our honor. First of all, thank you seriously, Molly, for bringing that up and also reliving that difficulty. So that's real. Like, we know exactly what you're talking about. Everybody on this tonight are warriors in that struggle and have felt it firsthand. I was thrown against all those ways.
Really quick, Mr. Moore, really quick. By the way, that was my second police brutality situation. The first one was 16 years before that in Vallejo. Actually, May the 5th, 2004. This situation was May the 23rd, 2020. So, and we'll talk about all of that later. So, I just wanted to throw that in as well.
Thank you. Yeah, and for folks should know that it was a brutal one where his whole mouth was messed up. So we will be talking about that later. Thank you, hon.
Yeah, I just want to jump in. I just want to say thank you for being honest about your disability. You know, being a Black man. You know, so thank you so much about that.
For real. So it's also, again, in the ways these things are connected. They're definitely not disconnected. And I love that Molly brought up the two events, because we know that this didn't start yesterday. It didn't start with George Floyd. It didn't start with this time with Mali and Klanameda. It continues. But it's also rooted in the system, right? And so it's with honor and love and prayer that we also lift up the story of Enrique Roman Martinez, who was brutally murdered while serving this Amerikkklan state in the military. And it's, of course, it's not, I don't think it's not connected, that most of you should know that Alameda or Klanameda is a military town. There's a huge base there. So again, it's oddly and perfectly, the ancestors are not making any mistakes here. So without further ado, Griselda Martinez, please come in and speak, on what would you need to say about your beautiful brother. And we're looking at a picture of him right now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, my brother, Enrique, we called him Kike. That's a, little nickname that we have for him. He was just a really quiet kid. He didn't cause any troubles. He never got into fights. He never fought with me. He never fought back, at least. It's it's hard. It's hard to deal with it because my mom and I never wanted him to go to the military. We were scared, you know, and he was 17 years old when he joined, and Army recruiters came to our home and they painted this beautiful picture that he would have honor in serving the military. He would be able to go to school, and you know, we were poor. We really were. My mom was working 2 jobs to be able to support us. And he wanted a way to build himself, and he thought that this was the way, and they talked about brotherhood, and they promised my mom, they looked her in the eye and promised her that the way she's giving them to them is the way that my brother's going to return back to them. But that's not true, because he was dismembered. My brother went on a camping trip with 7 other soldiers in North Carolina, and he went missing. And 6 days later, his partial remains, floated up and washed up on the next island over. So for them to have promised us protection for my brother, whom we were so worried about, my brother was a vulnerable kid. He was a gentle person. And for them to look us dead in the eye and tell us that that my brother would be protected. And now, fast forward to now, we only get a part of him to bury. It's just, I don't know why this has to happen. I'm not the only one. My brother's not the only one either. You know, it's so many. I think you've seen the Vanessa Guillen case as well. It's horrible. And he was with 7 of his brothers from the Army, from the base. The 911 call alone that they made was just, it was horrible. It was disgusting. They wanted to frame that my brother had suicidal tendencies. But I think that they thought that my brother's remains were never going to be found, but they were. So I feel like they were trying to cover it up with suicide, just like so many other murders that have happened in the military that are just covered up with just a simple suicide label. Just like Lavina Johnson, we all know that she did not kill herself.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely sickening. Like, this was my little brother. He was afraid of the dark. He didn't like to swim because he was scared of the ocean. Do you really think he would bring this upon himself? He wouldn't. He would just stay in his room. He would prefer to stay in his room and just play video games or watch anime. And they want me to believe that in some way that this was gonna happen because he went camping with 7 other friends. And I don't know why this happened. And it's been almost 3 months, and none of the 7 people have been arrested. No one is being arrested. No one is being, even ruled a suspect or anything. We have no answers. We just have one part of my brother, and we can't even see it because, no one wants to see that as the person that they love, right? They don't want to see that image.
Wow, Priscilla, I just want to say that, to your courage, to keeping the memory of your brother alive, and that's why, thank you for Tiny and Weston to reaching now, because we definitely want to do media, what happened to your brother, what's happening in Fort Hood, Texas. They more and more are finding of remains of a soldier that went missing years ago. And again, the whole connections to the way they're militarizing our own homelands here in Oregon and different right here up north, sending literally military, unmarked military, kidnapping activists, straight up clandestine. And also the reality that we face as poor people, Black and brown poor people, that yes, these recruiters are coming into our high schools. I remember when I was in high school seeing them and them recruiting some of my own friends. And so that's the reality. And I think that, we see, you know, the horrors that are being done to our people, Black and brown people, you know, in these military bases. And so, but again, thank you for having the courage to speaking up, you know, and not letting the memory of your brother, you know, just be forgotten, you know. Yeah.
And we wanted to add too that Weston and a lot of us are also danzantes, and so we would definitely want to be talking about trying to do a vigil as well. So just so you know, we love you. I want to send extra love as a daughter, a sister, and to your mama. Seriously, if something like that happened to my son, any of these things, right? So we totally hear you. Love you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't want him to be forgotten. You know, as I'm diving into this rabbit hole that is military murder, I find that it's not just my brother.
Right.
Just January, there was another one in his, you know, base that there's no public record of him anywhere, and except for one article that says that they have no idea why he died and they're investigating it, but he died. And that's it. And you know, there's more that have popped up, but I didn't want my brother to be another one of those. That's why I decided to speak up. First and foremost, because I want answers, and I'm tired of hearing that they can't make those 7 people talk. I'm tired of hearing that. I'm tired of them protecting them just because they're other military men. Obviously, my brother wasn't part of that brotherhood if they'd rather protect those other 7.
That's right. We're going to keep talking and figuring this out too. I want to, again, just let you know that we are in this to make something happen, like we are with all of these stories. These are very personal to all us poverty scholars. So that said, I want to bring in another powerful sister family and another horrible, sad story, but that we're resisting and fighting even by being here. I want to recognize if people don't know about a really horrible story of Kayla Moore, a beautiful Black trans sister, a poverty scholar, a friend of our sister Lori from Poor Magazine, and all of us folk in the Bay, who was murdered for making the mistake of having a mental health crisis with the PoLice watching and involved. And so without further ado, and also lifting up Lisa Ganser, who's here as well, and other warriors who literally continue this fight. It's a lot of us. Maria, welcome to From Katrina to Corona. Please let us know what's up.
For having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so to this previous speaker, I felt everything you were saying. And, you know, what happened shouldn't have happened. You know, just like Kayla, they should have assessed the situation and made a better call. But I am so sorry to hear about all of these stories. You know, Kayla was killed in 2013, excuse me, in Berkeley. And Kayla committed no crime. Kayla was in her home. She was with her roommate and with her caregiver. And the caregiver, you know, just to give you some background on Kayla, she was transgender. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and she was mentally disabled, you know, but she never let that stop her. Kayla was just a gregarious personality. Just to give you a little bit of history of her, she was fearless, and I so admired that in her because I wanted to be that. She was just such a strong personality. And you know, she, with her mental disability, she really did just accept the voices as her spirits. You know, it wasn't that she was scared of it, but she just embraced it, and she turned that into something magical for her. So, you know, she had her ups and downs, but she was just a good person. So, you know, that night, like I said, she was home with her roommate, her caregiver. You know, caregiver saw that Kayla was acting differently, you know, that she was talking to her spirits again, and that they had lived with her long enough to know that this might lead to something else. So they called for a wellness check. Okay, this is a wellness check. And what she got was not help. She was confronted with officers. So, you know, what crime did she commit? She committed no crime, but they wanted to arrest her. So they told Kayla that she was being arrested for a warrant that was not for her. This is a warrant that had someone with her death name. The date of birth was not correct. It was 20 years older, and it wasn't a valid warrant. And they knew that. But that night, they decided, instead of doing the right thing, which should have assessed the situation, said she's fine, closed the door and walked away, is what they should have done. They decided that they were going to arrest her. And Kayla called bullshit. She's like, no, I don't have a warrant. You know, I'll take care of this. Just give me a minute. She was going to make a phone call in her mind to get this all cleared up. And the minute she turned to make that phone call, she had 6 officers on top of her. And they struggled to put her into what's called a wrap device. And if anyone's familiar with the wrap device, it's basically torture. It's a torture device that constricts their body and makes sure that, you know, they can't, you know, harm anyone. And, you know, they want to put a spit mask over her face. And it's one of those things where this woman, she's 300 pounds. She's scared. She's crying. She's telling you, get off me. And she's saying, I can't breathe. And they still continue to pile on top of her. And they didn't realize that she had stopped breathing until minutes later. So since that date, what we have been doing, and the community has been amazing with their response, is just fighting for justice, holding officers accountable. You know, it's so frustrating when you have the Police Review Commission, you have the police union protecting these officers. You will never see justice when that happens. And I'm sick of hearing the same story over and over. Qualified immunity. We've been in court since 2014. Can you imagine? Since 2014, we have been trying, going to all different, you know, court cases and getting the case dismissed, filing appeals, getting the appeal dismissed, and filing more appeals. It's really disheartening, and it's going to be a long journey for any family that goes through this, but you cannot give up. You cannot, and you just have to keep putting pressure and getting the word out there. In this day and age, you know, there's been renewed interest in Kayla's case, which I love, but at the same time, it shouldn't have taken this. We should be there for every single family that has, you know, whose family member has been killed by the police. And we got to make sure that cops are not first responders to mental health calls. They just don't need to be there. They not only have shown they're incompetent, they don't care, they don't have that training, and they don't want it, and we don't want them to. We don't want them in the equation at all. There's other alternatives. You know, Oakland's slowly kind of trying to get there. Berkeley had enough time to get there. Right now, I'm just so disappointed in the chief. Your chief Leroy, your chief needs to go. He needs to
go. Leroy.
It's not my chief.
It's your fault, Leroy.
It's your
Berkeley. Shame on Berkeley.
Shame on Berkeley. I mean, it's just to see where they have delved into it. It's really disheartening, because we were making a little bit of progress in terms of trying to kind of fill the gaps in with mobile crisis, because we know that's the piece that we're missing, that we need more of. We need mobile crisis on the streets 24/7. We need dispatch directly to them, and they need more staff. You know, right now all I hear about is the budget in Berkeley. Okay, one of the richest city in the world. They're talking about their budget. Well, F your budget. You will find money, but this is important, and you have to just put the money into to save lives. You know, so
thank you.
This is kind of where we've been. Very little progress has been made, but we're not going to stop.
Sure.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, guys.
Love you, Maria.
Love you guys. Thank you.
So up next, we invite in a powerful family member of Poor Magazine and Artist Stelly Foundation in Cockwatch from San Francisco, who was one of many people who made sure that James Kraft, a Black disabled vet, was not police murdered on Friday. Jeremy, can you describe to the listeners and viewers what happened on that day? Jeremy.
Is he in?
I'm not sure if Jeremy's here.
Oh, he was.
Said he was here, huh? No?
Yeah, he was.
Uh-oh. I know Sage is here as well. Sage, do you want to start? And then, yeah, Sage is another community member who was present, and we connected on Instascam. Sage, why don't you start?
Yes.
Hey, everyone. Angelina was also there as well. So we actually started off with the protest. There was a lower hate protest that was going, we marched from DuBose to Dolores. And so we had been kind of hearing on like Twitter and like other social media that there was something going on with James Kraft. We knew that the area was blocked off. And so when the protest met that intersection of the street, we actually just kind of like came upon it and decided to stay instead of going to Dolores, which was really amazing. The protest shifted as we needed to for what was actually happening in the city. So by the time we got there, this image is pretty close to what was happening. There were probably like a couple of hundred of us out on the side closest to Valencia, and then probably like 30 to 50 people on the other side. And just like so many cops everywhere. It was so ridiculous ultimately how many people they had. And by the time that we had gotten there, they had the cops in riot gear face towards us, right? Like with our genuine concern, just trying to make sure that they weren't gonna kill this person, obviously. And so like are up against us with riot gear. There was a social worker who was present, who had 15 plus years of experience, was a person of color, was like working as a social worker in the city. They wouldn't let her through. They wouldn't even talk to her. She went to each individual police officer and said that like each police officer's name and said like, please send me your managing lieutenant. Can we talk to whoever's in charge? Like, because it was so clear that James wasn't gonna trust them, obviously. They had put him into an impossible situation. It was so scary. And yeah, it was so creepy, honestly, to hear them trying to talk to him using like their de-escalation tactics. They were asking him if he was a pizza guy or a burger guy. Like it was surreal. And I think the hardest thing was watching then like the Department of Public Health had sent a couple of folks there to try and help, social workers, psychologists. Someone had reportedly been there for like 4 hours, but during that time, I mean, I couldn't see with my own eyes like anything being shot, but we could feel the pepper in the air, right? Like a pepper ball is kind of unmistakable. And so I think that they had either pepper sprayed him or shot a couple of pepper balls. Then they were using the LRAD. It was like this like big sound alarm system. And like this alarm is going off, and at the same time they're saying, we're here to help. It was just like so shitty and so stupid. And at the end, I mean, so one more person from the Department of Public Health came. His name was Courtney, and he was able to get James to agree to be arrested ultimately. Like that's kind of like a point I feel like some of the coverage missed, is that he was handcuffed and put in an ambulance. But he was arrested, and it was still incredibly violent. I think Mission Local published
the video of them like pushing him against the wall in order to get him to drop the pipe that he was holding. It was still, which still seemed incredibly violent. The whole scene was incredibly violent. And so I am so happy that he wasn't killed, but like this, they weren't letting the social workers be in charge. They weren't letting them call any of the shots. It was so clear the police were just sort of felt like they had to invite the Department of Public Health, but they stayed in control of the situation the whole time. And I mean, 8+ hours, it was outrageous. Just an entire day's worth of torturing someone who wasn't causing a problem. There were so many community members there saying, we know James, he hangs out. Like, yes, he feels like sometimes he has to carry something for his protection because people are trying to fuck with him, which is understandable. And so like he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't harming anyone. And they just made such, it was, you know.
Thank you. Thank you, Sage. Angelina, did you want to add anything to that, or?
I feel that Sage pretty much summed it up the best way possible. I think what we had heard when we came upon the scene, there was already people who had kind of established themselves there as witnessers, and they had reported to us that by the time larger crowds had ventured there, that the cops had lowered their rubber bullet guns as we approached, and they seemed to have kind of changed tactics while we were there witnessing, which felt obviously really important. I tried to get it on like an Instagram live, and I told the cops that I was Instagram living, that they better watch out. And, you know, just general trolling of them not knowing how to wear a freaking mask, even though they're giving tickets to people who are doing the same thing. And so I think that ultimately it's questionable with the DPH, the Department of Public Health, because they sometimes are in cahoots with the Sheriff's Department and SFPD. And so getting the information from the social worker, which I think, you know, he was obviously an important critical step of the whole process, but it's hard to fully believe and trust that what they're saying is correct, because when we asked over and over again if James was safe, the social worker was like, he's okay. But then we're like, well, we're seeing poles, we're seeing rods, we smell pepper, we can feel it on our faces, we're hearing pepper balls get shot out. So that doesn't exactly report to us as he's actually safe and okay. And also there are sheriff's officers at the general hospital that James was probably taken to, standing guard around him. So the continual trauma that James was engaging in, that even though, you know, it was a better situation than what could have ultimately happened, but it's nothing even close to what we need and what we want, which is for the cops to not be there at all.
Right.
So.
Right. Wow. Okay, so I do want to just lift up the that you guys are really humble, and I want to say that Brother Jeremy from Poor and you guys and all the other folks basically were there for hours. So just so people are clear on that, and that's really hard to do, you know, stand watching essentially. And I just want to lift that up as an act of resistance. Lisa Ganser, myself, other warriors who cop watch, that's a hard job, right? And it means that you're dedicated to making sure that these systems don't kill our brothers and sisters, right? And that's a very big thing. So I just want to lift that up. We want to see if we can open it up to questions. If anyone has some, I know I do, but I know Momi's with us, Cecilia, some other cats. If anybody has a question for any of our powerful speakers or guests, Leroy, can you tell, or if people can I don't know, they want to.
Yeah, I can unmute everybody and let's go one at a time, okay? So I'm gonna unmute everybody.
If you know how to use that clap thing or the hand thing, maybe that's how you can indicate.
Yeah, I think you muted everybody now.
I said unmute.
Oh.
That's weird.
Okay. I'm unmuted.
Oh, there
Can
you
you hear
go.
me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, do you have a question, hon?
Oh no, I was just unmuting because
Oh,
everybody.
okay. Okay.
Listen.
I guess one of my questions, I don't know if anyone else does. I don't want to talk too much. Does other people have a question? No? I want to say one thing back to Mali and Griselda, and just looking at these ways that these are all connected. In these arrests, these murders, and these harassment, what everybody knows, and I think everybody on this call is pretty clear about, as well as Maria, right, is that the ways that military training and military weaponry is being used. And I'm just wondering if you guys sort of see those connections and you have any thoughts, because I do believe, just the very fact that Griselda's brother, was dismembered. I mean, we don't know what went on, as is clear, but like Griselda said, there's many of these folks like Vanessa and others, and they're just starting to come out because the Army tries very hard to silence those stories. But
well,
anyway, go ahead. Yeah, please.
Well, I'll say this. It's very important. I just want to really touch on what you guys were saying about the cop watching and things of this nature, because it's very important to recognize that everybody's seeing what the officers are seeing, but nobody's seeing what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing, oh my goodness, it was resounding. It was like a parade of people on both sides trumpeting, making sure that they didn't take me somewhere else. Because then speaking directly to what you were saying about the first situation, 16 years ago, different circumstances, no cameras, no none of that, and military guns. It was like it's like I'm coming out of the building to go downstairs to go get a video camera and something for my car. I'm coming back and it's like I have M6, like it seems like M16s on my chest and all this, and it's Cinco de Mayo. I'm like, so what I will say is regarding the connection with all of that, it's clear that they're setting up for. I mean, because it's war. As I tell everybody, it's war, and don't mistake it. It is war. I'm personally electing to put down, because I did the war thing. I did on the other side of the fence, illegal, so on and so forth. The Nation of Islam, more science temple, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. So this has been a process, and now at this point, it's just really sparked me to, taking it inward, taking it really integrally, and then displaying it outwardly in such a way that, man, I mean, if it doesn't go right, it goes real wrong. So, yeah, so it's just one of those things that you just kind of got to keep in mind and be aware of, that other people are definitely important. And another thing I definitely want to touch on personally, because there's a lot that will be happening for my agenda and things of this nature with healing. Do know that even the diversity of the people on the line here, what I saw there, nothing against anybody, because we are at war. Black Lives Matter, our life matters. But what I looked up as a black man, me personally, and not knowing my background, but what I saw was nothing but white people, white men, white women, you know what I'm saying, that were there. Sisters, tribe members. The mansion that it happened in front of is called Crusty Mansion. By the way, the chief of police called him on the phone when he uploaded the video, and I got a ticket in the mail, but that's besides the point. But the point is the way that I explain it is, it's not about black, white, it's about hurt people that are hurt. And we have to also couple that with our planet is under some very interesting times. I mean, come on, all entertainment, everything is shut down. All of the outlets that generally entertain people and they're not there. So that on top of the stress of it, the unknowing of it, the this, the that, all coupled in with the way that it is. Don't get it twisted. Just because all of that stuff is there, don't mean that it came from a squeaky clean place. because we know what it looks like with the hoses, and I was listening to some James Baldwin and really tapping into, different layers of this racial onion, and the problematic onion on top of that, because I look at it as a problematic onion. It's not necessarily, it's not a racial thing. It's an energy thing, and it's just an energy of we need to. I get the high tech, but we got to get into the high touch again. I've been here, and I don't want to hear any nonsense. I don't do masks. I wish somebody would try to write me a ticket. I will pull up the camera, the video, and say, did they have on a mask when they're on me? No, leave me alone. And I'm not gonna get into I'm not gonna get into all that, because I can tell you the truth about it. But the point is we have to look at all of these things as very integral pieces to an extremely, extremely complicated, not hard, but complicated, meaning have a lot of pieces puzzle. It's not hard. It's just complicated.
Yes. I have a question in a comment. Thank you, Dami, for sharing. And this is related to what Sage and Angelina were sharing. And also, this is something that we know here at POOR, and we speak on it until the POOR. Again, right now with this whole, demand of defunding the police departments all across America, just like one of the sisters was saying, we wish it was that simple that, and I know Brother Leroy talks about this too. Some of the people that want to reform this system talk about we need more trainings. If only we had trainings, but really important what you said, that even some of these social workers or anti-social workers who are supposed to be helping our communities, our houseless folks, actually side and work with the police. And so unfortunately, it's almost like we can't even rely on them to do the work that sometimes, that we have to do when we see these crises in our communities. But again, what are some of the things that we can do? How do we move forward to really move without needing the police, without also not depending on some of the social workers? And what are your thoughts for all of you, Maria, Lisa, all of you guys? Yes, and Angelica and Sage.
Can I respond?
Yeah, go ahead, Maria.
Yeah, it's open.
All right, yeah. So in terms of using the militarization, Urban Shield has been doing this for years.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're training these officers to use these military trainings on civilians. And this is where they especially cops, they get it all riled up in their head, and they have this mentality of the us against them, and that they actually need to use these weapons on just regular people. So, that's one of the things that we need to make sure that cops don't get more weapons, what they need. As far as I'm concerned, they don't need guns either. But yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I want to say to Moot and all of you guys, and I know that Sage and Angelina and others and Lisa, you probably know that what Moot was talking about. We did a How to Not Call the PoLice Ever workshops, myself and Leroy and Moot and Auntie Frances and many here at POOR. But what's more important about those workshops is we actually live that. We never engage with those folks, and that's not easy to do. And one of the things that we put forth is an interdependent accountability circle that we call the Elephant Council. Now that's very specific to a landless people's, poor people movement that we're building out here, I know. But really what it's about is lifting our minds from what I call the cult of caring, not just the cult of Karens. So in other words, it's not just the barbecue Beckys and the Karens, right? It's also this idea that I have to fix everything. I want to go back to James Kraft. The man was standing there with the stick, and as Sage pointed out, a lot of us folks who live on the street have things that we do use to protect us. I was on the street with my mom for years, and we had some stuff. I'm not going to say what it was. But the crazy part, let's be clear about this, just like with Mali, just like even with Maria, somebody called and said that James Kraft, a disabled black vet who was from that neighborhood and stood there for years, was menacing. So let's listen to that BS, right? That's where the classist, racist piece comes in, because I don't know about y'all, but these tech workers look menacing to me, okay? When they come up and, you know, kick houseless people and walk real quickly to their robot security guards. So it's that idea that just because we're on the street, because we're poor, because we're houseless, because we're of color, because we're disabled, that we're dangerous. So again, a lot of it is unlinking our minds from this notion of safety, but it's also really, at the end of the day, that guy who came from DPH, and I know this from talking with Jeremy and others, is it like the social worker who was trying to speak that you guys talked about, who the cops wouldn't let, you know, speak? He was a brother who was actually had a really beautiful way about him, who immediately just like, it's cool, I got this. It wasn't this big, we've got to arrest this guy, he's dangerous narrative. So I think that, again, it's really crucial if we're talking about abolishing the PoLice, right, to talk about the other ways that we've been taking care of each other as humans for, you know, thousands of years, right? We don't need these military who kill themselves, you know, lifting up Enrique, and kill us. I think that that's the piece that's very important. We had a training here just yesterday, it was Anti-Police Terror Project and using space of homefulness. And they are building a mental health crisis group who are first responders. That is happening now. They're not social workers, or what we call anti-social workers. They're not doctors, and they're not PoLice. So stuff is happening. We know that.
And I just want to say just a little bit more. We have to be really careful about getting sidetracked, because once we get sidetracked, things come in. You know, we don't need more art murals and, you know, fancy names for streets. We need justice. What's happening around the world is that although we're happy about these murals, like in San Diego just did once again a program to register disabled children with police. And most of the people that are for it, I just have to say, is white, wealthy, middle class mothers. So we really have to stay focused on the issue and not get sidetracked with these, you know, little, you know, art murals and all this stuff. So yeah. Anybody have more questions?
We have one more minute, about 2 minutes, sorry.
One thing I want to say really quick is I really appreciate how everybody is getting into the mental health aspect of it, because ultimately nobody knew that about me, and that's not a highlight because that doesn't matter in my situation, because but the thing is, I did hear the 911 call. And that's one thing that they were trying to psychoanalyze me, 5150, blah, 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 blah. It's like, even if that is the case, and what am I supposed to say? Yes, I'm 5150. Come on, that doesn't make any sense, man. It's like you have to get into actually using your noodle, taking the training and actually make it make sense, my guy. I mean, am I supposed to say, yeah, man, I'm 5150 right now? Come on, it just doesn't, that doesn't equate. So what that does is that leaves a very ambiguous place, and that's where they play. You know, and I'm speaking specifically, and we can talk about this off the air some other time, but it's very important to remain out of controversy, is my point. That is very important. Controversy and always remaining like you in control. If you listen to my video, don't let them do anything for you. No, I will pick up my own phone. Get off of my back. I got this. Da, 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 da. Never, because once you follow any one command, they have control of you now. You must know this. So it's about educating, like I said, using your noodle. And it's about people like myself who are willing to give this information because I have it. From a physical, from a mental, from a spiritual, I have it. You can watch the video and see the physical. It should be obvious. I mean, this is just how it works. And my thing is to bring it, and we all to work through this because it's all of us. It's us. So.
That's great.
Okay, with that's a good ending.
Wow.
Yes.
So I'm going to say we can close out. Thanks for tuning in. Shout out to Wesleyan for engineering with us and making a powerful connection of many of these interviews possible. And we will be back next Sunday. From now, and as well, remember to check out the People's Survival Guide to COVID-19 and the virus of poverty, which you can get on a sliding scale starting to 0 at PoorPress.net, and stay tuned for our upcoming Black August session reports school on August 29th and 30th. To get a recording of the show, subscribe to PoorNewsNetwork on YouTube. All power to the people.
Thank you, everybody. We love you.
Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Beautiful.
everyone.
Beautiful.
See you later,
Thank you,
people.
Molly. Thank you, Marika.
Wholeness.
Thank you. So much love. We'll be talking again very soon.
Yes, ma'am. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Love y'all.